This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Tuesday, February 8th. Rich Pope here with Kevin Spear and Trevor Frazier, and today we're going to talk about airlines. Some big changes coming as Frontier, Airlines, and Spirit combine to make one airline. We're also going to find out about iBuyers and real estate and what it means for the area right now. All right, so Kevin, so big changes coming to Spirit and Frontier Airlines as they combine to make one airlines. What does this mean for Orlando?
Well, Spirit and Frontier are the second and third busiest airlines at Orlando International Airport. That airport is dominated by the low fare, ultra low fare carriers. And if those two merge, if federal authorities permit it and stockholders sign off on it, then we're going to see a mega ultra low fare carrier that dominates, or is at least at the top of the pile at Orlando International Airport.
Yeah, you mentioned there's still some hurdles that need to be cleared. What would it take for this to go through?
They're aiming for later this year. They weren't more specific than that. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes longer. It's going to be interesting seeing how the Biden administration responds to this. They've shown an interest so far in scrutinizing proposed mergers, but Spirit and Frontier are ready to make a case that this will be good for consumers, good for competition, and good for travel.
Yeah, let's talk about here in Orlando. Frontier already has a crew based here. Spirit moved some of their operations here. It just seems like it would make sense that they would combine here and maybe potentially make it this the hub.
Certainly, it will be a hub. For Frontier, Orlando is its second busiest airport, and sometimes its busiest airport, busier than Denver even. And for Spirit, Orlando is the second busiest airport for that airline after Fort Lauderdale. So they've got a lot going on here for sure. It'd be interesting to see if they ever do consider Orlando as a new headquarters for a merged airline. And keep in mind that the airport, or the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, which runs the airport, is they're building a new terminal. It's just about to open, a $3 billion terminal south of the one that we're all familiar with. That thing's going to have a lot of space and a lot of growth potential. So it could really host a lot of airline activity there.
So this merger essentially says it intends that it will compete with the big four airlines, but it also mentions in your story that the smaller markets actually might be the real winner in this merger. How so?
Yeah, let's see how that works out. So the folks behind this proposed merger say that they will be able to operate more economically, they'll hold their costs down, and they'll have the horsepower, so to speak, to be able to go out to communities that either they couldn't compete with a carrier already there, or it's just a small market to begin with. But they're contending that they will open up a lot more air service in this country with the merged airline.
That's pretty cool. And as far as disruption goes, the article also mentioned less disruptions. How would that happen? Is it because both airlines will be operating at the same time?
The example that the airline executives provided yesterday was the route between Baltimore and Orlando. Right now, Frontier has 2 flights to Orlando from Baltimore, and Spirit has 3. So if you're a Frontier passenger and your flight is canceled coming into Orlando, then you've got one other option that day, right? And you better cross your fingers and throw salt over your shoulder that you're going to have any luck at all on getting on that next flight. But if you merge them together, then you've got 5 flights. So your early morning flight to Orlando goes bust. You have 4 other flights then that you can scramble to get on board with. And that's what they contend. We'll see how that works out.
All right. Well, good stuff there. You can read about it on OrlandoSentinel.com right now. We're going to move forward here to Trevor Frazier. We're going to talk about real estate, homes, and investments, and how their investors are influencing how homes are sold and bought here in the area. And one particular neighborhood actually shows a snapshot of what's going on.
Yeah, let's talk about that and not my complaints about Spirit. So, yeah, we were looking at a particular neighborhood. It is called the Wekiva Hunt Club Community Association. And the reason that this got called to our attention in the first place is because this neighborhood gets a newsletter every other month or so that lets them know what's going on in the community, and it also tells them who their new neighbors are. And in the latest edition of this, and the one that came out in January, that list of your new neighbors included about a third of them were companies. They weren't people. A lot of them were what are known as iBuyers. iBuyers are like internet buyers, things like Open Door and Zillow and OfferPad and so on that buy homes, that have these sort of massive funds to come in and buy homes and flip them around, turn them around in the area. Some of them were just, banks that take control of people's houses when they lose their house. And then some of them were what are known as institutional buyers, particularly institutional buyers in what's called the single family rental market. And this is a more emerging sort of phenomenon in the real estate game right now. And essentially what's happening is that some larger private equity firms are investing very heavily in residential real estate, and they're investing a lot in single family rentals. They're buying homes, and instead of flipping them, putting them on the market, they're turning them into rentals. And there are some advocates who are worried about what this is doing to the market, mainly because even though they say, it's only a small percentage of all the homes bought right now, inventory is so low that anything that comes off the market, pushes up the price everywhere else. So in this neighborhood, which acts as just this snapshot of what's going on in the Orlando market, I talked to a person who put up a home, and that home was sold within a day, and that home was sold for almost $200,000 more than she had bought it for. It was sold for 8 times or 9 times the amount that it was originally sold for. But it's just a good looking at this neighborhood.
Them rentals. There is some concerns, as you mentioned, but that they're not exactly looking to improve the house or essentially improve the neighborhood by having these rentals. Is that concerning in this particular neighborhood?
Well, if you ask the rental companies, for example, I spoke to a representative from Invitation Homes for this, and they would say that they are an investment in the neighborhood, that they do invest in the community. They invest $39,000 on average into each home that they buy to turn around and to get ready to be rented. And they say that they help bring in people who don't want to own homes, but they do want to live in these neighborhoods and they do want to rent there. Others say, well, it cuts down on the sort of community ownership of the neighborhood. When you have more renters and so on moving into the area, then they have less investment in maintaining the area and keeping the property values high and that sort of thing. The bigger issue is, of course, that this just affects the rental market. This, moves the prices up for rentals. And of course, a lot of lower income people who are still looking for housing and who have, a hard time finding housing. Well, this just means that other people who can't get into the buying, who can't buy a home, stay in the rent to get those. So again, it comes back to what has been the buzzword for the last year, which is inventory. We have a very low inventory, and anything that reduces that inventory affects the price across the board. Is just something that becomes noticeable, around the area. I do want to point out that again, even with all of the, we talk about the iBuyers in there. The iBuyers, Open Door and Zillow and stuff, are buying these homes and just turning them around. They're just selling them. They're not taking them so much off the market. But one of the big differences between them and between some of these other larger investors who've gotten involved in this is that they're able to come in with very high cash offers, sometimes over the asking price that people have put there. And these very high cash offers are pushing out just people who want to buy a home, first-time home buyers, particularly first-time home buyers, but also just, home seekers. And as they get pushed farther out, these prices just keep going up because, again, the larger companies can afford it. It doesn't matter to them if it's $400,000 or $430,000. That's just not enough of a difference for them. So they're always willing to go over. And they're turning them around for a very small profit, sometimes $4,000 or $5,000, at a time. But again, it's just keeping that price up above and keeping introductory home buyers out.
All right. Well, interesting trend. Curious to see how this one shakes out. I know you've been covering this one quite closely across the board. So go ahead and stay with Trevor for more information on that one. You can read the story right now online. But we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. Appreciate you guys being with us. Go to orlandosentinel.com/subscribe. Become a subscriber. Always do appreciate you being with us and helping to support our work. But for us, we're going to go ahead and push pause. Until next time, I'm Rich, Trevor, and Kevin. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.